At 1:19 in the morning, a voice came through the radio. Calm. Professional. Completely relaxed. Good night. Malaysian 370. Those were the last words anyone on the ground ever heard from that plane. 14 seconds later, the signal vanished. No distress call. No Mayday. No explosion. No warning. A Boeing 777 carrying 239 people simply disappeared from every radar screen on Earth. Not crashed. Not diverted. Not hijacked to a known location. Just gone. The search that followed became the largest, most expensive aviation search in human history. Ships from 26 nations. Submarines. Satellites repositioned in space. Over 200,000 square kilometers of ocean floor scanned, an area larger than an entire country. They found almost nothing. 10 years later, the plane has still not been found. This is the full story of MH370, the greatest mystery in the history of aviation. And the question that has never, not once, been fully answered. What happened to that plane? March 7, 2014. Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Just after midnight. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 was completely routine. Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. A journey the airline ran twice every single day. The kind of flight nobody thinks twice about. The plane was a Boeing 777. One of the thing checked out perfectly. The captain was a 53-year-old veteran with 18,000 hours of flight experience. A man who had given his entire life to aviation. His co-pilot was 27, younger, still building experience, but fully trained and certified. 239 people on board. Business travelers. Tourists. Families. A group of Chinese artists returning home from an exhibition in Kuala Lumpur. People who had kissed their families goodbye, boarded a plane, and expected to land in Beijing before breakfast. The plane took off at 12:41 a.m. and climbed smoothly to 35,000 feet. Everything was normal. The crew checked in with air traffic control on schedule. No issues. No concerns. Just another overnight flight crossing Southeast Asia in the dark. Then at exactly 1:01 a.m., the plane reached cruising altitude. And 20 minutes later, everything changed. At 1:21 a.m., the plane's transponder went off. A transponder is the device that tells air traffic controllers exactly where a plane is, how high it's flying, and how fast it's going. When it goes dark, the plane effectively becomes invisible to civilian radar. Turning off a transponder mid-flight is not something that happens by accident. It requires deliberate action from inside the cockpit. Air traffic controllers in Kuala Lumpur noticed the signal disappear. They tried to re-establish contact. Nothing. They called the Vietnamese controllers. MH370 was supposed to enter Vietnamese airspace any minute. Had they picked it up? No. Vietnam had nothing. The story takes its first shocking turn. While civilian air traffic control had lost MH370 completely, the Malaysian military had not. Military radar doesn't rely on transponder signals. It tracks physical objects moving through airspace, anything flying, whether they want to be seen or not. And the Malaysian military's radar system was watching something very interesting. A plane, the size and speed of a Boeing 777, had made a sharp turn. Not a gentle curve. A deliberate, sweeping U-turn. The aircraft had turned completely around and was now flying back the way it came, southwest, back over the Malaysian peninsula, heading toward the Strait of Malacca. The military watched it for over an hour. And here is the thing that still makes investigators shake their heads. Nobody did anything. The military saw an unidentified aircraft making unauthorized movements over their own country in the middle of the night, and assumed it was a commercial flight that had simply turned back. Nobody scrambled jets. Nobody raised an alarm. Nobody called anyone. They just watched it fly away. By 2:22 a.m., even the military radar lost it. The plane had crossed the Strait of Malacca and disappeared somewhere over the Andaman Sea. Now it was truly gone. But the story wasn't over. Because in space, a satellite was quietly doing something it did every single hour, automatically pinging the plane, checking if it was still there. And the plane, or something with the plane's communication system still active, kept responding. 7 more times over the next 6 hours, the satellite received a signal from MH370. The last ping came at 8:11 in the morning. By that point, the plane had been missing for nearly 7 hours. It had enough fuel for approximately 7 to 8 hours of flight. Investigators realized something chilling. MH370 had not crashed shortly after disappearing from radar. It had kept flying. Silently. In the dark. 4 hours. Someone, or something, had kept that plane in the air. When morning came on March 8 and MH370 failed to land in Beijing, the world woke up to one of the most surreal news stories in living memory. A commercial airliner vanished, with 239 people on board. The families of passengers rushed to airports in Beijing and Kuala Lumpur. They crowded into departure halls, clutching phones, refreshing screens, demanding answers that nobody had. Malaysia Airlines staff stood in front of crowds of terrified relatives with nothing to say. Because there was nothing to say. Nobody knew anything. The search began immediately, but in completely the wrong place. Because nobody knew about the military radar data yet. The Malaysian government sat on that information for days. So search teams flooded the South China Sea, the last place civilian radar had tracked the plane, and found absolutely nothing. Ships crisscrossed the water. Planes scanned the surface. Satellites captured thousands of images. Nothing. Days passed. Then a week. The families of the 239 people on board held vigils. They held press conferences. They screamed at officials. They demanded the truth. Chinese families, the majority of passengers were Chinese, gathered outside the Malaysian embassy in Beijing in fury and grief, holding photos of their missing loved ones. And slowly, painfully, the truth started leaking out. The military radar data emerged. Investigators began understanding that MH370 had turned back, had crossed Malaysia, had flown northwest toward Central Asia. Or south, deep into the most remote, most inhospitable stretch of ocean on the face of the earth. The southern Indian Ocean. Thousands of miles from anywhere. Water so deep in places that the ocean floor had never been mapped. A part of the world so wild and isolated that even in the modern age, almost nothing was known about what lay beneath it. Investigators concluded, it went south. On March 24, 16 days after the plane vanished, the Malaysian Prime Minister stood before cameras and made the announcement that the families of 239 people had been dreading. He said, and these are his exact words, Flight MH370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean. In a hotel in Beijing, where hundreds of Chinese relatives had been gathered and waiting, the room erupted. People collapsed. People screamed. People threw chairs. A woman fainted. A man punched a wall. Because what the Prime Minister had just told them was this, everyone on that plane was dead. And nobody knew where they were. With no wreckage found and no black box recovered, investigators were left doing something almost unprecedented in modern aviation, trying to solve a disaster entirely through theory. And the theories came. From everywhere. From everyone. Theory 1. Pilot suicide. This became the most widely discussed explanation among aviation experts. And the evidence pointing toward it is deeply unsettling. Investigators discovered that the captain, the 53-year-old veteran, had a flight simulator at his home. A sophisticated setup that he used to practice routes and scenarios. When investigators examined the simulator's hard drive, they found something extraordinary. Someone had deleted files. Recently. Before the flight. Data recovery experts partially reconstructed what had been erased. And what they found was a simulated flight path. Someone had practiced flying a route over the southern Indian Ocean. A route that matched almost exactly the path investigators believed MH370 had taken on its final journey. The captain had run that simulation less than a month before the plane disappeared. Then he had deleted it. Investigators also learned that the captain was going through serious personal difficulties at the time. His marriage was falling apart. He was reportedly struggling emotionally. People who knew him said something had changed in the months before the flight. The theory goes like this: somewhere over the South China Sea, After the co-pilot signed off with air traffic control, the captain waited until the co-pilot left the cockpit, perhaps to use the bathroom. He then locked the cockpit door from inside, turned off the transponder and communication systems, depressurized the cabin, and turned the plane south. Depressurization would have rendered the passengers and co-pilot unconscious within minutes. The passenger oxygen masks that drop from the ceiling only provide around 15 minutes of oxygen. Pilots have access to several hours' worth. One pilot, alone in a sealed cockpit, could have kept flying in silence for hours while everyone else on board was already gone. Then he flew until the fuel ran out. And the plane fell into the sea. It is a theory that explains almost every piece of evidence investigators have. And it is a theory that nobody wants to be true. Theory 2, hijacking. Could someone else have taken control of the plane? A passenger. A stowaway. 2 passengers on board were traveling on stolen passports, both Iranian men. This initially set off alarm bells. But investigators quickly established they were economic migrants trying to reach Europe illegally. That knocked out communications and forced the crew to try to return to Kuala Lumpur before they were overcome. Aviation experts largely dismissed this. The plane flew for 7 more hours after communications went dark. A catastrophic fire or mechanical failure doesn't leave a plane flying straight and level for 7 hours. Something, or someone, was in control. Theory 4, military incident. Some researchers have suggested the plane was accidentally shot down by a military, possibly during exercises in the area, and that a cover-up followed. No government has admitted to this. No evidence has been found to support it. And the theories that live on the internet, 2015. 16 months after MH370 vanished. A beach cleaner on a tiny French island called Réunion, a remote dot of land in the western Indian Ocean, noticed something strange washed up on the shore. A large piece of metal, roughly 2 meters long, clearly from an aircraft, covered in barnacles from months at sea. It was a flaperon, a component from the trailing edge of an aircraft wing. Engineers examined it and confirmed it was from a Boeing 777. Further analysis confirmed it was from MH370. The first physical proof that the plane had actually crashed into the Indian Ocean. The first piece of anything, in 16 months of searching, that said, yes, it went into the sea. Over the following year, more pieces washed up. Mozambique, Tanzania, South Africa, Madagascar, Mauritius. Small fragments of aircraft structure, scattered across thousands of miles of Indian Ocean coastline, carried by ocean currents from wherever the main wreckage lay. None of it led searchers to the crash site. The main body of the aircraft, the fuselage, the wings, the engines, the black boxes that could finally answer every question, has never been located. In 2017, after searching over 120,000 square kilometers of ocean floor, the official search was suspended. In 2018, a private company took over, searching a further area on a no-find no-fee basis. They found nothing. 239 people. Scattered across the bottom of the deepest, darkest, most remote stretch of water on Earth. Still waiting to be found. As of today, MH370 remains missing. New searches have been proposed. A company has offered to resume the underwater hunt using even more advanced technology than before. The Malaysian government has considered it. Families have begged for it. But as of now, the ocean floor where MH370 likely rests has still not been found. The families of the 239 people have spent over a decade in a state of grief that has no closure. No grave to visit. No final answer. No moment where someone official stood in front of them and said, "This is what happened. This is why. This is where they are." Just silence. And ocean. And an unanswered question that grows heavier with every passing year. Some of the families have never stopped searching. They have funded independent research. They have hired their own analysts. They have lobbied governments. They have refused, completely refused, to accept that the world's most advanced civilization, with all its satellites and submarines and technology, cannot find a Boeing 777. And honestly, they have a point. Here is what we know. On March 8, 2014, A Boeing 777 took off from Kuala Lumpur with 239 people on board. Someone turned off the communications. Someone turned the plane around. Someone flew it for 7 hours into the southern Indian Ocean. And then it was gone. Here is what we don't know. Why, who, and where, exactly, it ended. 239 people got on a plane and never came home. Their families are still waiting for answers that may never come. And somewhere, thousands of meters below the surface of the most remote ocean on Earth, the truth is sitting in the dark. Waiting. If you want more stories like this, stories that stay with you long after the video ends, subscribe and hit the bell. New video every week.